me to be back on a live stream. I'm going to just make sure that you can hear me when you're jumping on. Connect into your heart. Connect into the frequency of your spirit essence that sits in your heart space by dropping your conscious mind down into your body, bringing your awareness into your body, connecting here, taking some breaths into this space as you receive this beautiful transmission. So the other day, I had a friend and a client ask me, or actually, it wasn't that he specifically asked. He made a comment around me being a twin, and I was like, twin flames are different to divine union and sacred union. And at the moment, I've done quite a lot of transmissions over the last 18 months around the sacred unions and the different partnerships that are coming up for the evolution of our human species. And we as souls are being guided to come into these unions more at this point, because our singularity does not have the same frequency as when we come into a partnership or a connection. We expand and we can gift the ripple effect at a much higher rate of expression. So when I know this is school drop-off time. It's like such a busy time for people. So anyone who's tuning on or has the capacity to make a comment, I would love to know for the individuals tuning into this in the live that you are I would love to know for the individuals that are tuning in live, what conscious awareness do you have for the relationships that you have chosen this lifetime? What ones in the description that I have laid out have you experienced consciously with awareness? And put a list of those different relationships into the comments below. And I am also going to bring some understanding to these relationships because they all have different energetic signatures. They are all for different parts of our journey, and they all have different mirrors to understanding. And when we can understand the mirrors and why they're there, we can also understand where we are within our own level to transcendence and our own mirror of what is still there to be witnessed within. We can choose these consciously. We can choose these from a place of understanding that this person is a specific signature that shows me a greater depth of truth within myself. And as we know, I have had a very colorful relationship history. And I'm so grateful for every mirror that has come into my life, because I wouldn't be able to be a mentor and a guide into greater union if I hadn't have had these relationships. So I'm not seeing any comments, and I just want to make sure that my sound is on point. So just a thumbs up, on point, whatever it is that you need to do. I'm going to jump on my phone and just check that we have some sound, which is beautiful. So I will just add that to my story at this current point in time, and share it. Actually, I'll just share it to my business page. Business. I'll share it to my mission page. That's what it's called from now on, guys. It's called a mission page. That's exactly what it is. I don't even know where my mission page is. Later. So, I will actually have it on my page because I can't see your comments on my computer, and I would love to see the comments. So, are going to expand that out, but I am going to mute myself so I don't confuse myself of all the things. All right, so if you're joining, tell me exactly what relationships do you have awareness that you have experienced? And the reason that this is important is always for more self union. So everything that I guide people into is deep union within self, within source connection to their true self, their authentic expression, which is inner union of their masculine and feminine. So every piece that I ever share around masculine, feminine, relating, any conscious awareness that I have on any topics, the truth is that it always guides you to inner union within. And then when we have this inner union and we have this reconciliation within our entire being, we start to manifest this as a truth in our external experience. So if you haven't tuned in to my podcast, it's called Finding Union. And the reason that that was created at that time was I was so desperate to line up with my sacred union, my divine union. And I was desperate to have that because I knew it was in my energy blueprint. I had seen visions of my life in this human experience. Unlike many souls, I was gifted straight up, this is why you're here on this planet. When I chose to awaken, let's say that. This is why you're here. Here is the vision. Here is why you're walking this path. And that involved another counterpart. And so there was a lot of inner wounding for me to move through where I wasn't willing to, for a long time, I wasn't willing to do this work on my own. And I sought and I seeked and I was desperate to find my love. And if you've been one of my loves, you'll know this, is that my inner child felt that I couldn't do this alone. I felt that I was unworthy. I felt unlovable, and it was a beautiful gift for me to come into that place of strength within, to see my own inner man and woman and come into the strength of knowing that with or without a counterpart, that I was going to complete my mission on earth and that I was going to meet those parts within myself. Now, so all of these different relationships have different trajectories and they are here for different reasons. And they come through in stages, and they are the stages of your own internal conscious evolution. So, your ego development. If you want to understand a little bit more around ego development, there is an amazing series. It goes for 9 hours, and it's on YouTube, and it's by Actualized. So I can't actually remember his name, but it is 9 hours of information on where you will sit as you continue to move up into a place of enlightenment. And that was something that came into my field about 3 years ago, and it was a really potent awareness at that time of where I sat. And I haven't listened to it since, but it was quite a great self-realization of, am I really willing to see the truth of where I sit within myself? Am I really willing to see the stories? Because I remember hearing once that the ego always thinks that it's more advanced than what it actually is. And this is a key piece that I held on to. I held that so strong, and I was like, oh, okay, if this is truth, which it feels true in my body, then my ego always thinks that I'm more advanced than what I am. And I think for me, maybe it was a little bit different. I actually felt that I was less advanced than what I am. And so it's been the opposite of recognizing the truth and the channel and the wisdom that I hold within myself, and catching out that spiritual ego as well, because it wasn't that I saw the advancement within myself, it was that I wasn't willing to line up with the truth of my spirit, because that meant being in complete service to humanity. And that brings a lot of discipline, and discipline that I have now chosen as my truth, so that I can gift my fuckery and the wisdom that I've learned from completely breaking myself down so many times, to find what is true and to become this clear expression of information and wisdom. So let's start with the understandings of these relationships. So we'll talk about soulmates. So soulmates are from the same soul group and the same soul family. Soulmates are individuals that we have journeyed time and space with, and we come here with a agreement to meet each other at a certain point of our trajectory. We feel like home. There's a resonance. There's a connection. There's like a yumminess of like, oh, I know you. But there's no real push or pull. So a soulmate is not someone that's going to trigger you. A soulmate isn't designed to trigger you. A soulmate is there to remind you of home. A soulmate is someone that is synergistically got similar energetic signatures that you can find in the irises of the eyes. And you will see them and recognize yourself in these connections through the windows to your soul. So a soulmate you can have a romantic relationship with. We have many, many soulmates. We have many soul family. And I'm sure that we are soulmates. If you find a resonance to me, then there is some level of us being in a soulmate relationship because of our time-space connection and journey through different dimensions, planetary experiences before this point in time. And I am here as a reminder of you and me to find that resonance of home within. So soulmate relationships are quite easeful, they're gentle, they're loving, they're very, they're just easy. They're easy relationships. And these soulmate relationships are actually not triggering in growth. They're kind of a way to let you go into a place of, this is beautiful and I love this and I feel like I know this person and they hold me and we walk together. But because they are so synergistic, there becomes a point where your soul requires more. And your soul is wanting to expand. Your soul is wanting to transition into a new frequency. So soulmates hang around for a little bit of time. And they're a little bit of a reminder to say, oh, you're in the right place at the right time. And they are a relationship that will show up at different points to go, okay, you're doing it. Got this. For however long you choose to be in that connection. And your soul will start to call you into a different evolutionary process. The next kind of relationship is more of a karmic relationship. I don't know if I've actually... I don't want you to do that. That's annoying. I can't remember exactly which way I put it in, but basically a karmic relationship is a relationship that will come in to awaken you. So soulmates come in throughout our whole timelines, right? Our soulmates are there to guide us through our entire life. We have soulmates with us when we're consciously aware and when we're not. So they're there the whole time. A lot of your family will be your soulmates. A lot of your friends that have stayed with you throughout timelines will be your soul fam. And then the different ones that you notice throughout different timelines. Your karmic relationships are there with an agreement to be a trigger for you to go into a place of awareness. They will trigger every single wound you have. And these karmic relationships are ones that people often confuse with your twin flame relationship. So they're false twins. They are very much there to go and poke your wounding. They're like, I'm going to poke every part of you that is not healed. Every part of you that requires healing will be triggered, and you do it to each other. So these relationships are some of the biggest gifts that you could possibly ever ask for, if you can recognize them and witness witness them. And most of the time, we don't witness a karmic relationship until after the pain and suffering, because we are too delusional within our identity and our separate mind to realize what is gifted to us in that moment. So a karmic relationship is a polar opposite. A karmic relationship is the polar to what you express at that point in your journey. So most of us meet our karmic when we're sitting in our feminine wounding or our masculine wounding. And when we come into connection, what happens is there's a divine union. We'll talk about that later. There is a divine union connection of a mirror. So you're, say, a woman that's very much in their wounded feminine. So you might be extremely masculine and cold and controlling, and you might be a man that's in your wounded masculine, and you're a pleaser and you're a giver, and you're, you base your worth on how you show up in the world, right? So there is a direct union that takes place, even if it is from a wounded perspective. But what happens is, because there's no communication skills, there's no self-awareness, there's no understanding of who am I and why am I here, there's no growth at this point that usually a karmic relationship comes in, it is painful. And it's up and down, up and down. So you feel this level of yum. So these are your more, what we label them as your empathic narcissistic relationships. And your empathic narcissistic relationships are just directly your polarization relationships. So you've got the empath, which is the feminine, and the narcissist, which is the overt masculine. Both, in truth, very narcissistic. So the empath in their wounding is what you would call a covert narcissist, and they are usually quite in tune and intuitive, but they use, I won't go into that right now. That's not, basically, I don't feel like that's necessary. That is something that I've spoken to many, many times on my old page. There is a lot of information that you can find around narcissism and empath, and it's not relevant. The relevance is that there's a white and a black, a light and a dark, and a masculine and a feminine that are unhealed. So there's projections, projection, 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 which is the trigger for the wounding to be witnessed and healed. So these are your toxic relationships. These are the ones that you cannot get out of, no matter how much you try, until you break. So these relationships are the ones that are like crack, right? They're addictive. You're like, oh my God, I can't leave this person. They're the love of my life. I can't live without them. So these relationships are here to show you the extreme levels of connection and separation. So these relationships are gifting us the opportunity to see ourselves in the extremes and then choose something that is more in alignment with our soul. It is not healthy for any human being to be bouncing between highs and lows. These highs and lows are what keep us in fragmentation and separation, and they keep us out of alignment with our truth and our soul mission. So when we go through these karmic relationships, we often only leave because there is a level of breaking and shattering of our soul, our identity, actually, not our soul. But our soul fragments start to come back into the recognition that we were pretty fucking broken people, or perceived that way. So these relationships are, and mine, for me, that was the biggest gift of my entire life, and I have so much gratitude for my karmic relationship. My karmic relationship was my marriage. My karmic relationship was the relationship that I thought I would never, ever, ever, ever leave, because I was in so much love. I was in so much dedication to this being that I would have given up my life. And I got to that point where I was dying. So we create this. there is a level of complete breakery of the mind, body, and soul to come out of a karmic relationship. So these are the awakening relationships, and they are, if you can reflect on them and see yourself from a zoomed out lens, going to show you exactly where you are required to heal. So if you can step back now and look at any karmic relationships, and you can start to do some self realization and inner work on these, you can look at the relationships. One of the most beautiful tools of these relationships is everything that was ever projected onto you from these relationships that you haven't wanted to hear up until this point. If you go, there's truth in everything someone says, even in toxicity, then you will see yourself. And you have a head start to looking at your inner wounding and actually witnessing, recognizing your identity in a way that will serve you to come into more love. Because when we project, we're always telling a truth in amongst a projection. So that's where spiritual narcissism comes in, but we won't talk about that one. I feel a little bit cheeky today. It's interesting. Probably because I have been so out of flow. I'm like, okay. So karmic relationships are your awakening relationships. Then we go into a twin flame relationship. So twin flames are the relationship that basically there is a similar energetic signature. So I would love to bust down and break apart the twin flame theory, because it's one that is very confusing, and the identity loves to attach to the story of the twin flame. So a twin flame relationship is often straight after a karmic relationship in some form. Twin flames are like your other half. It feels like that. You feel like you are the same. There's a lot of synergy in sameness. There is a lot of understanding that I am you and you are me, and you have like similar hobbies, you've had similar life experience. There is kind of what takes place is a twin flame is an activation. So you've just gone through an awakening, and now you're going into an activation relationship. A twin flame is the activation of how do I choose unconditional love. That is the main goal of the twin flame relationship, is to see yourself and others in unconditional love. And that relationship is very much confused with a karmic. So a lot of the time people stay in karmic relationships because you think and you've attached to a story that they're your twin flame, and you just have to do this inner work and all these different pieces to continue down your path and be in a union with your twin flame. Now, there is a lot here with twin flames. Twin flames are not necessarily meant to be in romantic relationships. One of my twin flames, yes, you have more than one, or you can have more than one. And I'm going to explain this from a very zoomed out, multidimensional expression. Your twin flame, if you imagine a being, okay, a being that's traveled throughout time and space in their original spirit essence. I'll use mine for an example. I was created from a very advanced being, and that very advanced being split themselves. So they took their energetic signature and they gave life to me in the multidimensional. So I then was a multidimensional being with this same energetic signature of this advanced being, which will go unnamed. But this advanced being created me as a being. I was not created directly from source energy, although I am source energy and I am a part of creation. I was a creation outside of source energy in the unity consciousness field. Now, what happened for me was I traveled through time and space and different dimensions and different realities, and I became a being that was able to create other beings from me, like this advanced being that gifted me life. I gifted other people, other beings, the being's life. So I created 15 other beings straight from my energetic essence. So technically, I have 15 twin flame energies. So they have the same energetic signature because I divided myself into 15 other energies. Now, I have met some of these in the physical. One of these is my son. So I have a twin flame relationship with my son. Now, these relationships are there to trigger and activate us into more of ourselves, into unconditional love. Because these energies are the same, right? You have the same energetic signature, right? You're made from the same atoms, molecules, and particles. And then these twin flame beings go throughout their own journey throughout the universe, and they travel through time and space, and they gather information and different things, and they evolve at a different rate. So they're not your other part. They are not, you are whole and complete as you are. No twin flame is going to make you whole and complete. It's a delusion. It's a delusion that people make a lot of money off too, is the twin flame journey. And it can trap you out of seeing the truth of who you really are. It's also important. So the twin flame journey is an activation into unconditional love because you see yourself in another, and you see yourself so deeply in another that all of that wounding that karmic relationship brought up comes to the surface, and you are able to start to heal it because you were unable to heal it when you were in a karmic relationship because there was too much polarization. Okay? Too much judgment of the opposite energy to what you are. Reject, reject, reject. What happens is when you come into your twin flame, there's so much sameness. Yum, sameness. Oh, yummy, yum, yum, yum. Oh, we're the same. I want to hold you and love you forever. Oh, that's because you're me. There is this understanding and connection. You are not connected through, well, technically, we are all connected through all timelines, dimensions, and realities in some form. But your connection to your twin is based purely on the energetic signature. Any cause, attachments, and addictive personality traits, pieces that come that you can't live without your twin flame, any yanks, pulls, ties, is because it's showing you unhealed parts of yourself that are being ready to be witnessed and acknowledged and transmuted. So these twin flame relationships are to bring you into yourself. After your awakening, you come into yourself. You come into unconditional love. You learn what unconditional love is because you really actually didn't know what it was before this point. You think you do, but you don't. So the twin flame connection is not for everyone. We're all journeying different timelines, different journeys, different relationships throughout this evolution. And some of you may take several lifetimes to come just into the twin flame. For me, it's taken me many human lifetimes to get to where I'm at. This is not this human lifetime. It's many lifetimes. So the twin flame is one that I don't want people to see as I need my twin flame to evolve. They're an activation into unconditional love. And when that activation takes place and you start to go within and you realize that the answers are there, because that's the moment when you start to do the inner work and the inner healing. And that is a beautiful, beautiful gift. That's a beautiful gift. And it's turbulent, there's a lot of triggers, because without the trigger, you can't choose love. So a twin flame is a relationship where you see yourself so deeply that you're triggered into your internal self, and you see yourself. That's why it's there. It's to trigger you to see you. And you have the capacity now to see you. And you have the capacity now to go, oh, what's in them is in me. Oh, okay, I've got to do the inner work. I have to start to look at healing myself and to coming into greater inner union. So that relationship is why that is there. As we continue to evolve, we may have quite a bit of time after a twin flame connection where we have separation and we are in autonomy. So, autonomy is an important part of growth, right? We need to be able to be autonomous and connected, autonomous and in union, because without, we go into trauma bonds and we will go into relationships based on our internal wounding. Now, I fast forwarded this process, going through all levels of this in this lifetime, which I wouldn't recommend, or maybe it was perfect. But the autonomous part is required after any relationship to integrate the learnings. Okay, so when we're in autonomy, we have space. We have space from someone else's energetic field. We have space from someone's energetic aura. And it gives us time to see what was here to be journeyed, to be witnessed, to be acknowledged. Without autonomy and without space, and without truly detaching or cutting cords and releasing someone from our field, we do not integrate the wisdom. Because there's still attachments, and there may be past life attachments, and there's different cords. So you can have cords and threads that are attached through your sacral chakra, your heart chakra, and your high heart portal are the most ones that people stay attached to other beings. And that's because you're attached to whatever it is that they give you that you're not willing to see or give yourself. So if you still have tugs and pulls at other people that are in your past timelines, relationships from the past, it's because you still have awareness, lessons, and learnings to see things about yourself. This was quite an interesting part of my journey because I was going through one of my friends actually said, and it's quite crude, but I'm going to say it anyway, that I had a dating history like the Paralympics. And I was like, bitch. And this was quite a few years ago. And it was because I was going into a relationship. I was literally seeing the lessons, learnings, and going through this transformative cycle at such a fast rate that I was in, out, in, out, in, out, and it hasn't shifted up until recently. Because my blueprint, my energetic blueprint, I have contracted myself, I have agreed to see myself in the mirrors of relationships so that I can do this level 2 self-realization and coming into truth of who I am through my relationships. So I'm grateful for these relationships because I wouldn't be where I am at without them. Without every single one of you beautiful individuals, there's no way I would have been able to see myself and come into a sacred union. It wouldn't have been possible for me to do it in the timeline that I have, because I've gone from a soulmate relationship, which is what I was basically spending my first part of my life, the first 28 years of my life I spent in soulmate relationships. And then I went into a karmic relationship for 4 years. And then it has been different karmic relationships, different divine unions, and different soulmates. So you can go back forward, right? So I just want to explain that. Just because you've had one really karmic relationship, if you haven't done the healing from that karmic, you will keep meeting different karmics along the way. And those karmics hold past life memory and past life keys and information and coding that you are to activate. So all of these relationships are very, very important to your soul's growth. So if you're not relating, you're not willing to see yourself also. So these lost. I must have gone into someone's field then. I feel like a little child in my channel today. It's like this cheeky teenager. Take couple of breaths with me. So as you go on these relationships, you can jump back into different ones because they hold keys. They're your remembrance. They show you parts of yourself that you've lost and fragmented along the way. And these relationships, you will journey until you come into a place of inner union where you can meet your divine counterparts. And you'll continue to bounce into these relationships until you're willing to see yourself. So the soulmate, the karmic, and the twin flame are very beautiful. If you've had a couple of karmic relationships and a twin flame, and then what will happen is your souls going into a place of holy fuck shit, man, this is a lot. You will then meet a soulmate, because a soulmate's like home, right? A soulmate might be your best friend. It might be someone that goes, don't worry, I've got your back and I'll hold you while you integrate these pieces. So a soulmate is like a retrieval. And so you'll go back to soulmates every time you need a retrieval, however they show up in your life. And they are to just help you embody all of the information that you've learned and to go, whew, okay, next step, we've got this. And that's how long they'll stay there for. And they'll keep showing up every time you need a retrieval, every time you need to be reminded of home. A soulmate will come into your life and they'll be like, breathe. So as you continue down this journey of self-realization, you then have divine union. So divine union, there is more than one divine union, just like there is more one karmic. There is more than one twin flame. A divine union is your mirror. So the divine union relationship, now I had a couple of trajectories in my personal relationships. I had many timeline possibilities. There was one highest timeline. There's only one highest timeline. Okay, that's why it's called the highest timeline. So you don't have multiple highest timelines. You have multiple timelines. You have multiple trajectories. You have multiple opportunities, and you have multiple points in time where you can either see and feel what is of the highest good and the truth, or you can see these timelines as activations for what they really are. So I had 2 divine union relationships and 1 sacred union relationship. And over the last, it's probably been about 6 months, about 6-7 months, I have had all of these beings come into my trajectory. Now, a divine union is a relationship that is, how do I explain it? A divine union is 2 counterparts, a masculine and a feminine, that are mirroring exactly the same wounding back to each other. So there is an opportunity in a divine union to choose each other, and what happens is it's to create more in the world, right? So a divine union relationship is there to create for humanity. You don't meet a divine union if you're not coming into some level of connection to create for humanity. So if your divine union comes in, there is a synergy and there is a connection, and it depends on where you're at whether or not you can actually choose each other. Because you can have a divine union come into your relationship, and if that person's not willing to meet you, then you're not going to continue to move through your relationship together, because the lessons are not learned to choose that relationship. So a divine union is a relationship where you can actually see a trajectory forward of creating for the betterment of humanity. A divine union is for that. It's to create for the betterment betterment of humanity. And there is a lot of beautiful divine unions on my social media, and I'm sure on many of your social medias. A divine union does not mean that you are going to be in a place of transcendence or in a place of multidimensional expression. A divine union is a relationship contract, an agreement that is made where when you come together, you choose each other in divine union so that you can create more for the betterment of all beings. So there is a level of we are here to create together, and we are here to create more together by two beings wanting to walk this path, right? So that doesn't mean that you're going to be a healer or a shaman or a coach. It doesn't mean any of that. It just means that together you create more for all in the ripple effect. So it's a level of connection. It is a divine mirror. There's a divine mirroring that takes place of if I have issues in my root chakra that mean I don't feel safe and protected, you also have issues in your root chakra, which means you don't have this feeling of being safe and protected. So these relationship dynamics come up simultaneously. There's a synergy in this cycle of I'm actually going through the same internal story as what you're going through in the same internal story. There's no polarization. And because there's not polarization in that way, the only polarization is the ego gets fearful. So the ego comes in and it's like, this is everything that I kind of want. And it feels true, but I'm not ready for that. And I'm going to choose my ego story instead. And so, and because the synergy is there, right? A divine union is not karmic. So karmic relationships trigger hurt, pain, and healing. A divine union connection can be missed quite easily because there is there's not, I won't say necessarily there's a level of home, but there's a level of comfortability. There's a level of sameness. There's a level of synergy that takes place in a divine union that you could be best mates and best friends. And there's not this karmic polarization of like push, pull addiction. The addiction piece is not a part of a divine union relationship. So because there's no really big push and pull in that way, the only way to push and pull it is through the ego story. And if the ego story comes up and creates whatever reason not to choose that relationship, it will dissolve and it will shift. And it's perfect, right? It doesn't matter. It's all perfect. But a divine union will have this this sameness, whilst also seeing difference. And so the masculine and feminine parts of the being are mirrored in union, but there is not a level of wholeness within the individual. So the individuals, when they come into divine union, are not necessarily in divine union within themselves. And they're not necessarily meant to come into divine union within themselves. So a divine union is when we are together, we feel union. And when we are together, we feel union, and that charges us up. And then we can move forward in life and create more from this charged up energy. And then we come into union together, and then we go out and we create more, or we do it whilst we're in union and we create more for everyone in our field and our experience. And those are your power couples. A lot of your divine unions are power couples, and they're both, creating whatever it is that is being desired to be created from their level of expression. So you can be in a divine union and not be very conscious and not very healed. Now, the difference between the divine union and the sacred union is quite dramatic. So a sacred union is of divine devotion to Creator, to God. You don't have to be in devotion to God to be in a divine union. You don't have to. A sacred union is one that comes into a very multidimensional place of transcendence. It's where superhumanity comes into play. It's where you transcend your ego and you come into two divine beings that are in complete service to the betterment of all of creation. So there's devotion, there's devotional practice, there's divine devotion to the inner connection to source, and understanding that when you come into that connection within yourself and then you have another person that is coming into that divine inner connection within themselves and you come together, that energy is transcendence. So there is a level of expand. And so when you're in the vicinity or the connection with someone who has come into a sacred union, the natural energetic ripple effect, so just being in the presence of a sacred union, will activate you into more inner union within yourself, which is powerful. And it is what is needed in our human experience at the moment, because we are being called into more peace, love, and harmony for all, and to remember who we are. And so if you have two individual beings that have come into self-remembrance, that are conduits or that are here to be in devotion of God, right? That's what it is. A sacred union is two individuals that are in devotion to God that come together, and their devotion is magnified. So it's a expanding, magnifying relationship. It is one that will activate different parts of the being that, and they all do this, right? So there's all activations, codes, exchanges, energetic signatures that come through. It depends on the journey to what is received, and it depends on the conscious remembrance to how you perceive it and receive it. You either see it as an initiation and a beautiful gift in your journey, or you will see it as something that your ego wants to attach to and grasp at. But a sacred union is not possible until the individuals have come into that commitment to the divine within themselves, fully committed to that connection. And then they come into a full commitment to another being in oneness, all that isness. And that is the ripple effect that comes out onto humanity. It brings a multidimensional activation to all beings. And that is possible. That is possible for everyone, depending on how you choose to remember and your own willingness and discipline and ownership. And I am so grateful to have walked this path to show you all levels of experience in relationship is one of beauty, love, and remembrance, of healing. They're all initiations, and they all have different reasons why they are here. And you are already what you are seeking, and they are showing you that in different forms. And I am honored to have walked through all of them and are stepping into the sacred union that I am stepping into to share more of this information with you, to be a beacon of light and truth, and to stand in the conviction of what I'm speaking because I know it to be true. Even my human doesn't have any space to resist because the energetics of truth, when you remember, transcends the human mind. The human cannot grasp at the story any longer because the energy is far greater and it dissolves instantaneously. And that is possible in a moment when we choose it. I love you all so, so, so very much. I would love to hear any comments, which relationships you have experienced, where you feel you're currently sitting within your own journey. Please be interactive. It brings me a lot of joy. I desire to hear from you in your personal experience and your vulnerability because it fills my heart with love. And I want to choose more love in every moment. Have an absolutely beautiful Monday. If you feel called, share this with the people that you know will resonate. Share it on your pages or your stories. This has a ripple effect. And stay tuned for the offerings that are coming. They are going to be potent and powerful. Return to Source, Mount Tambourine, the Shambhala experience is in July. So if you haven't already received an invite to this quantum rebirth into more union, please let me know and I can send you the information. It is next level and there is nothing like it in Australia, I can at least say, and I don't believe in the world because this is coming through directly from my connection to Source and the other beautiful, amazing conduits that are bringing through direct transmissions from Source energy. So I love you. Have a beautiful Monday. I don't know where the off button is. Where is it? I'll just sing. Ande, 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 ya, hey. Ande, ya, hey, ya. Oh, ah, hey. Ane, ana, hey. Yara, hey. Ana, hey.
Get ready for Coachella on YouTube. All state